It's that time of the year again, where we all gather around the fire and go over the new Dataslate info. That's right, the 14th of December, 2023, the Quarter 4 Dataslate has dropped. We also finally got some movement on Season 3 pre-orders for Salvation, but that's a whole other thing. Looking through the notes, there is plenty to be excited about under the buffs segment. There are nerfs here as well, and they certainly feel warranted in most spots. Much to go over, so real quick, if you're new to the channel and enjoy tabletop content like Kill Team, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Maybe the like if you're so inclined. As well, we have a Discord community linked in the description below. If you want to talk rules, battle reports, or even show off some current projects, pop on in. We'd be happy to have you. With all that said, let's get into it. Core rules saw no changes. Point scoring, limiting grenades, compendium upgrades, all untouched. Much like the Season 1 compendium teams, our journey begins among the bespoke Season 1 teams. The Orc Kommandos saw some adjustments that might anger the crumping fans out there. Sneaky Gits had some nerfing. It is clarified that this ploy is only usable once per battle, so no multiple sneakies on the field. It also prevents Kommandos under this effect from switching their order out of Conceal in the first turn from something like Infiltrate scouting options. So no shooting from odd positions in turn 1. The Bomb Squig was also limited in its APL by preventing it from increasing that stat, so no targeting the Squig from the Knobs Get It Done ability. Slight nerfs here for one of the first bespoke teams released that we still see on the podium in tournaments. The Tau Pathfinders received a buff in its unit selection and mission action options. On top of all the changes received so far, the team can now take a recon drone without it affecting the total team units. It doesn't make it free, but this drone choice technically cost 2 slots, as it reduced the 12 total selected units to 11 if it was fielded. On top of that, in order to make drones more useful in the close quarters of the Gallowdark, taking a drone controller operative provides all drones on the field with the ability to operate hatches, so long as the drone controller remains alive. Good, since drones normally can't perform any mission actions without this benefit. Minor buffs here, but things that will increase the team's potential across more kill zone options, as well as making the recon drone a more interesting choice to take without too much downside. Next up, the Voidscarred, a team I was working on an overview video for, and now that they've received a couple buffs, I will need to go back and change some things before finishing it up. And these are good changes, nothing too big, but it makes some of their kit more viable in more situations. First up, the Outcast's ploy was buffed by reducing the distance allies must be separated by to gain the benefit of turning misses into normal hits based on crits. This ploy is important when needing to spike damage, but the 6-inch distance was too much at times. 3 inches allows for more setups among the team's box of tricks. Also, the Deadly Ambush ploy was buffed in a way that really just makes sense. The ploy allows a targeted Corsair to charge an enemy unit 3 inches from it after an enemy model finishes its move. Normally, this would require the Corsair to be in engage, as charge won't work in Conceal for them. So if a Melt-A-Gun runs up on a Shade Runner in Conceal in cover to get a shot off, not much could happen. Now, the Shade Runner, or any Corsair for that matter, would use the ploy, change its order, and then charge, finding protection in the arms of engagement range. There are some other tricks with this ploy that are accessible now. The key thing is that the ploy changing the order allows all of this to occur, drastically increasing the ploy's potential. I may have to rework some info in my Corsair vid, but this change is really exciting for the team. Next up, the Hunter Clade gained some more changes. To be honest, I haven't had much experience with the AdMech team, so I'm not fully versed in the benefits, but they do seem pretty straightforward. First up, Protector Imperative Optimization was changed to simply allow 1 free reroll from a shooting attack, better than the requirement of needing 2 misses to trigger the reroll. The Bulwark Imperative Optimization is much the same, but with the focus being on re-rolling 1 save without the need for 2 fails. Lastly, Bulwark Imperative Deprecation was slightly nerfed. Normally this imperative would restrict their move characteristic down by 2 inches. Now it prevents dash. Before, you could move 4 and dash 3, but in the new setup, you could lose potentially 1 inch of possible movement. Not exactly the worst, as this will still allow for more mobility while performing other tasks. A bit of a horizontal change. Next up is one of the big changes this data slate, the Wyrmblade, one of my favorites. The Wyrmblade have gone untouched so far, but these buffs will bring the team well up the tier list and even open the list building up for a unit that isn't normally seen. First up, Cult Ambush was buffed. Not only does the effect occur when changing from Conceal to Engage, but now they have learned a bit from the new Hand of the Archon team. The reroll effect of Cult Ambush can also be triggered by units that aren't visible to any enemies when they activate. This drastically increases the potential from units like the Keller Morph, but also allows heavy weapons to have potentially 2 good rounds of rerolls, especially with another buff those got that we'll look into in a second. Next up, the Talon buffs. I saw great potential in this unit before this, but now I am beyond intrigued by this unit's abilities. The Talon's familiar Soul Sight action gained further benefits beyond the brutal and balanced rules. It now has potential for double strike. The first crit the Talon resolves in melee allows for a normal hit to be resolved immediately after. If there are only crits rolled, which can happen with the lethal 4 and balanced abilities it has, then a second crit is able to be used. This ups the potential damage output from this unit in melee from 3 to 6 as an opener to 9 or potentially 12. That's a dead legionary if everything lines up. And also, this double strike is merely resolving a dice. Both of those dice could be parries if you want the Talon to stay in combat for minimal damage received. Truly powerful. Lastly, the Heavy Gunner buff. Normally these units would plant themselves behind cover and cycle between Conceal and Engage and back to Conceal over and over with the help from their leader. But no more. All of them have the Suspensor system rule. No longer does the heavy rule prevent them from moving, but their total per turn movement is limited to 6 inches. This will allow them to hit and fade into heavy vision breaking terrain, only to return at a later point to take the benefit from the Cult Ambush again. This team was fun before, but now I am itching to lead them again. The Season 2 teams had some big swings that should generate some interesting developments in squad use. Starting with the Farstalkers, they already had a hefty buff attached to them, but their Kill Broker gained some adaptability. Normally, its Call the Kill ability allowed 1 retained normal hit. Now, the Kill Broker can pick a boon applied to attacks made against the unit. The normal retention is still there, but the added choices are either Ceaseless for the rerolls of 1s or P1, giving ranged attacks armor pen on crit. A solid change as most units had their ballistic skill increased, making the guaranteed retention a little unnecessary. The Kasrkin has found even more boons to their abilities. Their core team ability was upgraded to potentially allow 2 dice to be changed. After adjusting one normally, if at least 1 dice is discarded, more points can be used to adjust another miss to a regular hit. More help for the ballistic skill 4 team. The Recon Trooper's Warden Auspex ability was adjusted in a way that I feel is for the better. Normally, this allowed certain ploys to trigger properly by treating the enemy target as not being in cover. Now, this ability fully negates obscuring that the target might have. Anti-obscuring rules can be ruthless against teams that try to use line of sight in tricky ways. And with the upcoming Beta Decima rules that were revealed, anti-obscuring is going to have huge benefits for the teams with access to it. The foregrip equipment was expanded to allow gunners and the sharpshooter to use them for an increased cost. This could open up great options for Overwatch attacks, especially under close quarters rules with the guard action. The Exaction Squad received further aid in their efforts to become relevant. The Execution Order ploy had its cost adjusted further, along with what it can target. It still starts at 0 command points, but it now will only cost 1 beyond its first use. It will no longer continue raising in cost. It also doesn't require the unit to be in line of sight of the Proctor Exactant, simply that the target must be in the kill zone. The truly big change, in my opinion, comes to the Assault Shield using units. The shield no longer has 2 profiles. Both profiles are combined into one, making this option for the leader as well as the subductor agent extremely formidable. To the uninitiated, you would pick between either the stun option with the lethal 5 for the leader, or the attack first and double parry function. Now, all of this is combined. So for the leader, you get stun, lethal 5, attack first, and double parry on top of the better armor save. The subductors don't get lethal, but now you have more options open to you with crits, as those will perform similarly to parry as an opener. The Proctor Exactant is also reinforced with the ability to use its Nuncio Aquila token for free, helping with the APL problem the team has. The Fellgor Ravagers saw some adjustments as well, fully negating the balance they received in the last Dataslate and trying again. Now frenzied units count as APL 1 in determining control of a point, rather than not counting at all. They also clarified that the critical range damage done to a frenzied unit in effort to bring it down must come from a subsequent attack, not the attack that was used to activate the frenzy in the first place. Barely any change here, and I believe the Fellgor were in the balanced team's crosshairs. I assumed we'd see more. The last team to be adjusted saw much needed nerfs, even after being hit by the nerf bat already. The Chaos Cult, beyond everything that they were already hit with, had their insane healing potential limited. This was something my friend and I talked about during our Spec Ops campaign, so it was interesting to see how it played out. Now, when a devotee or mutant changes to its evolved form, that model doesn't refresh all of its wounds. Instead, the mutation will bring with it a heal. A devotee changing to a mutant brings a D3+1 heal, mutant to torment gets a D3+3 heal. On top of that, a devotee must kill an enemy and survive the fight to even be considered for a mutation. Much harder to pull off than simply hitting once and living. As a fan of the Chaos Cult, I agree with these concepts. This team is heavily reliant on its heal-based stability, and without reducing the total devotees the team has, this will keep total wound count in check, especially since a full wound mutant would need to roll a 5 or a 6 on the heal to become a full wound torment right out of the gate. Our Spec Ops campaign is halfway done, and I know I said we were going to play it under the umbrella of the Quarter 3 rules, but I think we may both agree to push into the Quarter 4 to finish it out. Even with the prior nerfs, the cult still performed super well. Even the World Cup saw several cult teams plow their way through to victory. Hopefully this will rein in some of their issues. Thanks for watching. Are there any changes you're excited for? I can't wait to break out my Wyrmblades again going forward. Something about the Talon's changes just makes me smile internally. We're looking forward to Season 3 dropping, and we'll hopefully begin pushing more content as the holiday season burnout comes to an end. So don't forget to join us over on Discord if you're interested, and as always, likes for the like god and subscribes for the subscribe throne. I am Kimmerix, and I'll see you in the next one.